podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
You're listening to Achtung Millwall, broadcasting from the beautiful South Birmingham. Accept no substitute.
Good morning, dear listeners. It's Monday morning, therefore it must be Merv Payne. Welcome to the show, Merv.
Hi, Nick. How's it going?
We're fighting depression, Merv, aren't we? After that shambles.
Trying hard to look up and not down, but yeah, it's very hard after that. I'm trying to think. I've tried to jot down any positives.
If you've got any positives, do let us know, because I can't think of any myself.
The only one I can think, and it's a bit of a cop-out, is we surely can't play any worse for the rest of the season than we did in that first half. And even, Alex Neil's comments afterwards, he looked like he was absolutely livid as well. And, comments about not enough players showing a sort of Millwall-style commitment, and that was the general gist of his comments. And I think that's fair enough. And for once, I don't think we can even blame the injuries. I think the problem was, as usual, we shot ourselves in the foot.
Well, we started very cold. I don't know. I find it very strange with professional footballers. There's articles on the news at Den where they're talking to Jake Cooper and I think Ryan Leonard, both of whom have a dream to, have at least some time in the Premier League. And I think Alex Neil said in the post-match interview with Millwall TV, if everyone's dreaming of the Premier League and all the young players will certainly have nothing else in their mind, Merv, that's not how you get there, is it?
It's not. It is bizarre.
Park football start.
Yeah. Oh, it is. The defending that I've said, for the second goal, the McNamara Crocombe. Well,
that was comic.
Yeah. So many things you could. That's easy with hindsight, but so many things. First of all, McNamara sure just deal with the ball. Secondly, there's clearly no communication, which again, it's sort of stuff you wouldn't even tolerate from like an under 15s team, a park team, and it's hard to fathom why we do it, and we do it time and time again. I think the defence either looks rock solid or just looks absolutely useless, and it's a shame because we've been praising Crocombe, and he's looked for all the world like a good challenger for Jensen, who I understand is making progress coming back. But yes, Saturday he made one good stop. By then I think it was already 2-0. But yeah, you've got to make him responsible for not doing better with the first, and for not even talking to his defence for the second. It's a shame to sort of have a go at the key goalkeeper, but that's what it is. That's his job is to organise and to be the sort of the eyes and the ears of the defenders if they got their back to goal or whatever, and all that sort of thing. And it clearly didn't happen, but it was a bizarre way to deal with the ball as well from McNamara. It all smacks of just a lack of confidence, isn't it, really?
Yeah, which is strange in itself.
Yeah.
It's a strange season, Merv. It wouldn't be Millwall if it was a conventional season, would it? It wouldn't be
No.
Our dear little club. We don't grab a division and run with it, or we're not. Inconsistency almost is our middle name. I'm just looking at some of the results this season. We've had some really good moments this year.
It's either been really good or really bad, isn't it? I was thinking back to because obviously another positive is Blackburn has become a bogey side for us. They were when I was young and started following Millwall. We didn't play them that much, but when we did, they were always a bogey side. I can remember, in fact, the promotion season 87-88. We went to Blackburn on the back of a 6-game winning run. We really hit form. It was, we were doing really well again despite injuries. I think Terry Hurlock was out injured at the time. Cascarino was on fire. We went there. I think we went 1-0 down quite early, and then the second half, Cass equalises, and you think. A few weeks earlier, we got to Stoke. We were 1-0 down, and Cass scored 2, and we won it. And I remember the mood in the away in that afternoon was right. We're going to win it now.
Yeah.
And what happened was Cascarino ended up getting injured. I think he broke his ribs or something. We lost the game, and then we lost again the following week. I think Man City came down to Den and beat us. Then we went to Barnsley the last game before Christmas. Yeah, we went to Barnsley the last game before Christmas, and then listeners of a certain age will definitely remember this. And Barnsley absolutely murdered us 4-1. And I remember coming back. And funnily, I don't know why I remember this, but Fairy Tale of New York by the Pogues had just been released.
Okay,
that was a new release.
It captured the kind of melancholic.
It did. Yeah, it was
mood.
It was such a. And I remember thinking, well, that's it. The season's over.
We're done for.
Yeah, we've been battered 4-1 at bloody Barnsley, for God's sake. What hope have we got?
Yeah.
And then Boxing Day in typical Millwall fashion. I didn't go because I didn't. But we went to West Brom 1-4-1, and we went on a really good run. The players came back from injury, and as you know, the rest of the season was
The rest is
fantastic.
history.
So we have to,
I mean,
we have to just not get too down with a couple of results in what is a really long season. We have to hope that, we can go into the injuries a bit later on, but we have to hope that players come back fit, stay relatively fit, and we because we usually do better after Christmas than before.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
if that pattern is repeated, then we should be all right.
Historically, a pre-Christmas long trip up the M1 up north has never been Millwall's favourite trip of choice, is it?
No.
So there's in that sense, it's just coming on the back of the 3-1 home loss to Hull City, which was a fairly chaotic kind of afternoon defensively. Again, we just seem to have gone to pieces a little bit defensively. And I don't understand why that should, because that's actually been one of our strengths across the season.
Oh yeah.
And as I've just said, I mean, it's actually not a few weeks since we've gone to Bristol and won, a difficult place to go, as they say, 1-0 down there amidst all the events of that afternoon. And then the week before, we've beaten Southampton in a modern day classic. So it's a very strange season where you lurch from. And I'm just looking at the results previously. We've put 3 past West Brom, and we've got a run of 4 straight wins, stuff like that, Merv.
Little runs. I think if you look around the division, with a few exceptions, such as Coventry, I think a lot of teams are experiencing the same thing. I think Bristol City went on a good run and were up in the top 6 with us when we played them, and then they end up 11th. Now then they beat Middlesbrough, obviously Coventry are running away with it, but Stoke went on a brilliant run, and at one point they were challenging Borough for second, and then they've slipped back. So it's not just us. I think it is. We say it all the time, but it is such a competitive division. Pretty much everyone can beat everyone else.
Yeah.
You've got teams that are expected to do well, like perhaps maybe Norwich, Leicester, Sheffield United aren't.
They're struggling.
Yeah, and Southampton maybe as well. They're going to spend money in January.
So
it's going to be just as bonkers, if not more, after Christmas. So I think we've just got to be happy that we're part of it, and not stuck down in the bloody League One, which we could easily have been.
We could easily be. I mean, and it wouldn't be Millwall if we weren't somehow, despite it all, still in the top 6 with a -6 goal difference.
I saw someone compared our goals for and against with Norwich, who was second from bottom. I don't think it compares much. It's not much different.
Well, we've scored 25 and conceded 31, hence the -6.
Yeah.
Norwich are second from bottom. We've scored 25, conceded 35, -10. So there's not much in it.
No,
difference being they've got beat 12 times.
When we get beat, we really get beat, don't we? This is the problem. I mean, Coventry.
Well, this is it. We'll get thumped.
Hull put 3 past us. Even when we win, or even beating Southampton, we managed to concede 2. So it's. I think there was a few people scratching their heads to why Taylor wasn't in the team, but I think Alex Neil is desperately trying to rotate the squad and keep people fit, given the amount of games we've got to play.
But I was thinking about that with Danny Mack coming back, and then obviously Kramer going more central. I'm going to guess, and I haven't seen anything on this, but he's trying to save the legs of Tristan Kramer, who's become our go-to man for practically every position. So bombing on down the right, he might want to save him for the big game, the Ipswich on Boxing Day, Merv, for that one. Bring Taylor back. I don't think, obviously, he would never admit it, but I'm pretty sure Alex Neil, because someone accused him of going all rowity on us at half time, and he made those changes, saying like he was making defensive changes as if we were clinging on to a win. But I think he's probably, he's no mug. He's been around. He's been a manager for a long time, and he probably looked at that, as did most of the fans. And I think you should mention the 500 odd fans that went up there, which is absolutely super, brilliant.
Real
hats off.
Loyal. And I think even they've looked at that quite early on and thought, we're not going to get anything here. So let's do a bit of damage limitation. Let's start to think about Ipswich at home when we have got, because even with a weakened team, we're capable of beating anyone at home. We
are, and I think he is a canny manager. Being Scottish, he'd be canny, wouldn't he? A lot of nous and saving the legs of Tristan, who has been a critical part of our. So obviously we're going to lack Femi Aziz against Ipswich, which is a blow. I mean, the likes of Marku and Negley and Ballo generate a bit of comment online for being ineffective. I mean, let's not beat around the bush, listeners. I mean, I like him, Mark. I think I saw it might have been JP J Thomas.
Yes, I saw that. Yeah,
mentioned his track record, Merv, and you can't really argue with the numbers. I mean, as much as I like the boy and I think he's a good, honest kid, but I think he's had about 70 odd appearances, mate, his starts or subs, and scored just twice in that time. I think that was the number.
Yeah, my
that's
issue
harsh, cold at this level, isn't it?
It is. My issue is I don't feel like he's progressed, got improved. I feel like we've got the same in Maka that we signed 3 years ago.
A couple of years ago.
Whereas you look at someone like Aziz, who when he first came, a few people were saying, well, he doesn't seem to offer much. He doesn't seem that, and yet he's just got better and better and better. And now I think when he's not playing, and again I think Phil Clark mentioned this, and we've said this a few times now, when Aziz isn't playing, the likes of Ballo and Maku and Negley look lost. I think they rely on Aziz. Aziz he's got this confidence, this aggression. He gets the ball, he knows what he's going to do with it. And I think when you're playing around that, I think it makes your life a bit easier. Whereas I think there's more when Aziz is in the team, the onus is more on Negley and Maku and Ballo to actually do something, rather than just be a supporting role. They've got to be the lead role, and I don't think they're up to it.
No, I mean, this not yet. No, I mean, this mentioned Sturge yesterday when I was talking. I mean, he doesn't look 100% at the moment. I think he's fully recovered from that concussion that he's had. And when the Sturge Ballo left side duo works, it works really nicely, Merv. But it's like when the going gets tough, they don't quite look as good, and I think that's a problem.
Go hiding.
Yeah, I mean that's the eternal problem with creative players, isn't it? They have good games and then maybe they fade. I mean that's always been so. But we did look like an open book on Saturday, though, especially down that left side, the Blackburn right, the Mill left. It was kind of the freedom of Blackburn Borough for the Rovers side. Mitchell came back. I thought he did okay, Billy Mitch, but I mean he's clearly got work to do to get up to.
This is it. I mean, even when players are getting fit, and I say Alex Neil said that, he said, well, Billy Mitchell's close to coming back, or he's probably ready to come back. But if I throw him in for 90 minutes, he'll break down again after 2 games. I mean, people were moaning that they took him off after, or some people were questioning why he started him. But I did think, actually, that he would swap him for Leonard at half-time, which is what proved to be the point. That's
62 minutes. Yeah.
Players that have been out injured and need to be sort of eased back in.
Both looking for game time, get their legs back.
If they come through that fit, they're going to be that bit better on Friday, Ipswich, and you only hope then that they get back fit and they stay fit, and that's what's got to happen with most of the rest of the players. I mean, I say as we've mentioned before, Lucas Jensen is He's played for the under 23s, was it? He played for.
Yeah. Post recording this conversation with Merv, dear listeners, it's emerged on the news at Den that Lucas Jensen has in fact suffered a quad injury, sadly, playing for the under 21s last Saturday, which is likely to rule him out for months. Apparently, tore his Achilles in training last April, and now that has been compounded by a quad injury at the weekend, which does indeed seem to rule him out for some time to come. So almost certainly that will be an area that the club look to strengthen in the transfer window. Just want to send my sympathies to Lucas. I met him a few months ago at one of the prostate events at the Den. Really nice guy, really sad news for him. I want to send him, I'm sure, all of our best wishes for a recovery. But that will almost certainly rule him out for the season.
You do a certain injury and you compensate that. When you do come back, you try to protect that.
Yeah.
And you invariably do
strains elsewhere.
The other side of your body, because that's taking. But also, I mean, my fear is obviously the defence is a bit rattled at the moment. And I say Crocombe has looked solid and is now being made to look a bit vulnerable. Bringing Jensen back into that sort of situation isn't going to be ideal either, because by his own admission, he did struggle to sort of adapt to Championship football when he first came, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. It took him a while.
He's coming back and feeling a bit delicate, or feeling a bit nervy, coming back from a long injury like he has.
Yeah.
There's the potential for disaster. So
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah.
I don't know what else is on the. I mean, I saw the. I didn't listen to all of it, but the interview with the recruiter.
Steve Gallen.
Steve Gallen. That's it.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
interesting one.
yeah,
I watched it
yeah.
all. I watched the
caught the
whole
gist of it.
30 minutes of
Yeah,
it.
and I caught the gist of it, and I noticed again to mention Phil on X laughed at the comment about when these players become fit, it'd be like having a new team. But the worry is that, or what the pattern seems to be, is as they get fit and come into the team, they get injured again. So it's interesting to see what the plan is, what the actual plan will be in January. Because
the other thing that I picked up there was he said that moves will be made early to reinforce the squad, because I think anyone and the likes of Jimmy Berylson and Steve Gallen, Alex Neil are, they're not stupid. They do look at the league table and they do see what a big opportunity still lies in front of us, Merv.
Yeah,
we are still in the mix for playoff football,
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, certainly we're much closer to it at this stage of the season than we have been in any of the other seasons where we've actually made a good run in the second half. So I think again they're looking at that and thinking, well, look, if we if we do after Christmas what we've done after Christmas in previous seasons, then we've really got a chance. But we can't afford to throw that away by not reinforcing, even if it's the loan market. I know we don't tend to go into the loan, but if it's if it's to sort of get another, I think we probably need another attacking player of the calibre that brings the same
centre forward or whatever.
Then there must be someone established out there in the Premier League that's perhaps not getting much game time and can come in and just, if he just does a sort of a Dion Dublin style job, as we
that would be the ideal kind of player. I mean, we play a fairly direct style. We're using Ivanovic as a target man, Merv, aren't we?
Yeah, and he needs. I think he needs someone. I think Ivanovic needs. Again, he's been getting some stick, but he's been expected to do way too much. I think he needs someone to play off, and obviously, I think that was the hope with Coburn. I don't know. Apparently, rumours of Josh Coburn's demise have been greatly exaggerated. Alex Neil was saying
he's just returned during January, whether that's middle or start or end of Jan, I don't know. But
Steve Allen interview suggests that a lot of them are likely to be back January, February time.
I wonder. It'd be interesting to see what team takes the field at Burnley in the FA Cup.
I was going to say, if we can get that out of the way, I'm surprised he has not perhaps tried a few more young players, because I think this time last year when Alex Neil had just arrived, and one of the first things he did when he had a bit of a shortage of players was bring Reece Bangura-Williams in, which proved to be really good. And we've got a few players.
Well, people have mentioned Jack Howland's, Merv. I mean, I really like the look of Jack. He looks a very elegant.
Mal Grant,
so it will be interesting.
But maybe Burnley is when he'll decide to do that. I think it would be quite good. But I don't know what they seem to be very wishy-washy on the time frames of the other injuries, don't they? Kelly, Smallbone, people like that.
Yeah, there's like no news, but no news is not good news there, listeners.
No, it isn't. No, because and I think I hate to say it, but I hear Zach Lovelace is injured again. I don't know if it's true, but I know he did sort of appear. His head did pop over the parapet a few weeks back, didn't he?
That's a bit ominous for the boy's career. He left us in a blaze of glory going north to Rangers, didn't he?
I mean, it seems he's got more time on his back than Linda Lovelace at the moment. That's one for the older listeners. Sorry, don't Google it.
Don't Google it.
Don't Google it. But anyway,
it's probably quite mild by the side of what they watch now, Merv. But anyway, there we are. That's a different podcast, listeners. That will go from Merv and I after dark or something,
Yeah, but I mean, I had really great hopes for him because I think he was getting into the Rangers team, and there was a few.
He was doing well up there. Yeah,
I think a few Rangers fans were disappointed that they let him go, and I thought this could be just a sort of, and it's such a shame because you do get the feeling that this is how this is going to end. We've been following football for a long time, and that this feels like a familiar sort of.
Well, if he doesn't make it back at Millwall, you get a sense of drifting into the League 1, 2, non-national league kind of zone.
Absolutely,
don't you?
Yeah, that's it. And it'd be a shame if he ends up.
That's where it finishes
like
for him.
It's a real.
The player I wanted to mention, and I keep waiting for a dominating, game-changing, explosive performance from Alex Ray style, Merv, the one for the older boys as well, is Camille Negley. Our record sign. Enigma is a good way to put it. And he's doing all right. He's doing okay. And if he had been a boy from the ranks who's come through the academy and is a part of a squad. You say he's got a lot of promise, that kid there. But he's not. He's our record signing, and he comes to us with a weight of expectation. I just want more from him, don't you?
Definitely, yeah. I mean, he had a good chance at Blackburn, I saw. In fact, when you look at the highlights, and we could bizarrely have got a couple of goals, certainly in the second half. Ivanovic had a really good chance.
Close. There was a chance. I think it was a Negli. The ball came in from the right side. I think it was Imarco, actually. And a Negli.
Yeah, it was. That was it. And which
put
again
it wide.
is strange because one thing he did show when he first got into the team was accuracy. You say his goal against Borough, his goal against Norwich.
Opening down Norwich.
There were sort of half chances, and he just buried them. And the free kick against Watford showed real skill, and you can see the frustration from the fans on social media that there are times when he just looks completely lost. And I don't know what. I think the answer is, and we've said this again, time and time again. There's a lack of maybe a lack of leadership or a lack of. I know we're aiming for.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, we're aiming for a younger squad, aren't we? Which is great for the future.
Yeah.
But there needs to be some older heads on there, in probably several positions, all maybe in the defence, in the middle and up front, that can get older players like that and sort of give them sort of things a Steve Claridge would have done. They'll sort of take them to one side. And
Dublin is a good figure that you mentioned earlier on.
Yeah, you want some non-captain captains, if you like.
I think that problem is summed up with the other youngster before we close. I mentioned Turno Ballo, who I think is a very promising kid. I've seen people having a pop at him online. But the problem with a young squad, and he's probably the epitome of this, Merv, is, as you've just said, is when they're on fire, they're on fire. And when they drop, the heads drop, there's no one there to say, lift it, put your head up, get stuck in.
Yeah,
and I think that sums up in Turno. I think he's a very promising boy.
He is,
just not doing it at the moment.
Yeah, but it must be very hard when you're playing in that position to have the, to sort of try and turn a game that would potentially tossed away in like the first 5 minutes. It's hard if you give the opposition, especially when you're away from home, such a good start. You conceding goals right at the start of the half and right at the end of the half. It's very hard to get that momentum going because heads are going to drop and the other team are going to be on a high. They're going to be pushing for more, which they did, and it is hard to expect one young player to sort of turn it around, and it has to come. It has to sort of come from all round. We have to start better and be more solid. But I'm sure Alex Neil was working on that.
Well, we're going to find out after the break, listeners, what Alex Neil's thoughts are, because following Merv and I today, we're going to have a collective interview with the other boys from the other podcasts with Alex Neil after training today, Monday. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back with the gaffer after these messages.
Achtung, Millwall.
So, dear listeners, welcome back to the show. This is the audio file of a conversation held earlier on today with manager Alex Neil. Big thank you to Max McLellan for setting this up, and also for Alex Neil for making time after training today to talk to myself, to Micky, to Colin from Lions TV, and Chris Chaps. So the voices you'll hear will be those four of us. Take it away, boys.
Hi, Alex. Thanks for joining us. Hope you're well.
Yeah.
So obviously, take it. This is our one of our best finishes in the Championship. Obviously, since we come back into it in 2017, and the position where we are. As much as Saturday obviously was a disappointment through the result of the game, but if we had have won it and it took us into sixth place, everybody would have been happy. So with all the challenges and the hurdles you've had so far this season, how proud are you of the team, and how hard have the challenges been?
Yeah, well, I think first and foremost, I think the team so far at this point have done brilliantly well, in terms of where we are on the table, what we've done, the teams we've beat. I think some of the performances across the season have been very good. Some of the games that we've been involved in, like say Southampton sticks out in the mind as well, beating Leicester at home in the manner which we did. So I think there's been really good moments, but equally, I want to temper that as well in the fact that I don't want people to think that we're jumping up and down because we've had a good start to the season, and more importantly, that our ambitions aren't obviously more than that. Because we're not fortunate to be where we are. We are where we are because of what we've done. And that's the message that I keep saying to the players as well, because there's a difference in mentality between being content and starting well and being all delighted that we're in the top 6 or we have been for a spell. But there's a difference between staying there and pushing on and being a team that regularly sort of competes in those sort of spheres, if you like. And I think we need to make that next step now and be a team that wants and sort of not has an expectation, because I don't want any arrogance coming into it, but certainly it goes beyond just being happy to be there.
No, I get that. And my second question is, looking at Millwall website, obviously we've got quite a large team. We've got 33 allegedly first team players. And when you look at most championships, obviously they have between 25 and 28 players. Obviously, because of injuries, you haven't really had the benefit of the full squad yet. But does having the squad that big come with unique challenges? And a follow-on to that, I suppose I'll give you now so you can do it, and then I can pass over to Nick maybe. Do you think we're going to have to move people on in January to be able to get new people in?
Yeah, well, to answer your first question, when you say we've got 33 first-team players, I think what we've got a habit of doing here is we count lads that have predominantly played in under-21s as part of our squad. If you look at Watford and you look at maybe Coventry and you look at, they'll have the same lads, except they just don't come under the first-team bracket. But I think because of the injuries we've had, a lot of these lads have either played a part or they've featured at some point or they've featured in the cup games because we want to try and see where the development is. Automatically, we put them as part of our squad. So our squad's as big as everybody else's squad. You're only allowed 25 players in your first team squad. Anyone under the age of 21 doesn't count as part of your first team squad. So our squad's no bigger than anybody else's. So that's the first sort of myth that I'd like to sort of try and get ready.
Hence why I asked the question, because there seems to be a lot online of people saying about how big the team is, but realistically, it's the rules what govern around it, what a lot of people don't really take on board. So, yeah.
Well, the simple fact is that the lads that are extra are all kids under the age of 21. And don't get me wrong, some of our better players, if you like, or some of our players that have performed very well at that age this year. So age, like I say, I know it's a cliche, but it's only a number as far as that's concerned. But yeah, our squad's the same size as everybody else's. We've just had to delve into maybe that 25th, 26th, 27th man, more so than what other people have. Hence the reason why people think our squad's bloated. But to answer another question, I think there would need to be some lads either go out on loan for us to potentially bring people in. I don't think one's reliant on the other, if that makes any sense. So we certainly don't need to move people out to bring people in. But I think we would naturally want to do that, because I don't think it's fair on those lads either, that if they're not going to get exposure in game time, that they're just hanging about here and training without having that sort of game to look forward to come the weekend. So we've always got an element of fairness that we need to take care of for the players as well. And some lads that if we don't feel they're quite ready, they'll be getting put out as maybe a development loan to see where they are in the pyramid because they've not been tested at that level. And others, I think we've got a duty to potentially put them out as more of an exit loan, so they've got a potential that they can get a club in the Football League and continue their career somewhere rather than sort of being left in the doldrums here. So, we want to try and remedy that for everyone. But equally, what I will say, what will come first is the needs of the first team and the needs of the club. So that will never be superseded by any individual needs, and it never will do.
Excellent. Thank you. Nick?
Thanks, Micky. Hello, Alex. Nice to meet you, mate. We've met before. Not say hello again, mate. I wanted to ask you about, one word, consistency. There's got two aspects to that. One you can control, one you can't control. One's the playing side. How do you, as a manager or coach, I suppose, I've been struck how we've gone from really, really classic performances like Southampton, not 3 weeks ago, I think, to Saturday, which was, I don't want to dwell on too long, but it's the opposite. And then the other side of it, I suppose you might not be able to answer, refereeing consistency. I was amazed to see us get pulled up for an 8-second corner on Saturday. It's got to be a frustrating thing when your job revolves around consistency from your side, but you don't get it from the other side on the refereeing side. Would that be fair?
Yeah, let's talk about consistency in terms of performance. I think there's a couple of things to that. I think some of the games that we've played this year, I think really suits our setup in terms of what we're trying to do. I think that if you can get consistency in terms of lineup, allows you to evolve as an all-round team, i.e. whether it be in possession, out possession, and creating overloads and patterns. And well, I'll give you a prime example. Obviously, when Femi Aziz has been missing this year, you're taking 6 and 7 goals out your team, aren't you? You know, when Josh Coburn's not been fit this year, it's meant that Mihailo's carrying a far heavier load than what he arguably should be. So, and the reason I name them is goals win you games, and goals determine games in terms of the fact that sometimes you can play brilliantly and sometimes you can play okay, but ultimately having that threat of scoring is going to be one of the key deciding factors as to whether it will be deemed a good performance or not. Because there's many a time that we've won and people will say that we were brilliant, and from my perspective, I don't entirely agree with that. But as a fan, what I do understand is when you win, it always feels like a good win. Do you know what I mean? And some of the games need to be gritty. If you look at a 46-game season, you're probably going to have a third where you play really well, you're going to have a third where the game's average, and you're going to have a third where you play quite poorly. What we need to do is when we play really well, make sure we win. When we're okay, can we nick more of them than we lose? And then when you don't play well, don't get beat. And if you can do that across the season, hopefully you won't be far away. So as far as that's consistency is concerned, obviously people being available and consistency of performance, what I do believe at the moment is there's some games suit us more than others. And I think for us to be more rounded as a team, there's still work we need to do. But equally, to have our best players fit, I think makes us better on every front. So that's that. But as far as referee sort of decisions go, I don't know if you're aware of this, but certainly internally, because we look at all the metrics on a regular basis, but as far as fouls given against us versus fouls received, we're at the top and bottom of each of those pyramids.
Right.
And
I didn't know that.
whether people like that or not, from my perspective, having been at different teams and sort of sampled this league for a long time, I certainly think there's a stigma attached to Millwall outwardly. And I'm not referring to referees, I'm just talking about in general. So I certainly don't think that helps us. And I don't think we're a dirty team by any means. I think we're a hard running team, we're a hard tackling team, but we want to be competitive and we want to make sure that we get the ball back and we try and sort of obviously cause teams as many problems as we can. I think that where we are in both of those tables should not be the case in my view.
Do you as a coach after a game in the cold like that, do you ever get a conversation with a referee to explain? I mean, I'm thinking here of the penalty where Jake had was tugging a shirt, which you see left, right, and centre, and yet those kinds of decisions must be frustrating. Do you ever get a cold light day kind of? Why did that decision get given?
We get feedback on a regular basis throughout all the games. So obviously we'll put in our sheet in terms of how we feel the games went, the decisions, the key decisions, which came back, which not came back. What we'll generally do is then Kevin Friend, who's the head of referee, may well phone up and have a discussion. But what will definitely happen is, I'll give you an example. So there was one of the games this year, I can't remember the decision, where Kevin Friend said that it either was or it wasn't a penalty. And it goes to a decision panel, and the panel unanimously went against Kevin Friend.
Right.
So what that does show you is it shows you interpretation, you know, and even it doesn't matter whether me and you look at the same incident, we will have very much potentially different interpretations, or there'll certainly be somebody with a different interpretation. We're naturally going to look at it through sort of blue tinted spectacles because we're doing it on behalf of Millwall and we want everything in our favour. But yeah, what my argument always is to the referees and certainly the fourth official is as long as we get our fair share and we feel it's balanced, I think that's all you can ask for. And more importantly, they get the big decisions right because they dictate games at this level.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you, Alex.
Thanks, Nick. Good afternoon, Alex. Pleasure to have a chat with you again. So you're coming up to your year anniversary with the club, and I checked Transfer Market this morning. I think you've been in charge of 45 league games, so almost a full, calendar, if you like, and amassed 72 points, which in the last 2 seasons would broadly get you into the playoffs. So I think we're certainly trending, and I thank you for the constant work that you're doing there. What would you say is your sort of high and low moments within that sort of 12-month period?
I think that the high moment, obviously, I think the Southampton game sticks in my mind. I think there was a brilliant run towards the end of last season as well, right up to going to Burnley in the last day of the season. I thought the Burnley game, when we went 1-0 up, and then obviously the fans' reaction after the game to the players in terms of what they'd served up that year, I thought was outstanding. Even though we'd lost the game and we fell short, I think everybody could appreciate the effort that the lads had put in. So that was definitely a moment for me that stood out. And I think the lows, a low for me is when I don't think that either I've got it right or we didn't sort of, a bit like Saturday first half for me, we didn't compete and we didn't fight and we didn't do the basics well enough. I think I can sort of semi-accept getting outplayed because that will happen from time to time. You can't perform well every week, but what you can do is you can get the basic elements of football right. You can run as hard as the opposition, you can fight for every ball, you can never give in, you can run to the last minute. And I think in the main, to be fair to this group of players, I think they've done that. I think there's only maybe once or twice in my head that's maybe dipped below that threshold. But I think, obviously, me and the lads, we have a real honest chat about that, and we hopefully quickly remedy it and move on and try and put a better performance in the next game. So I wouldn't say there's two completely standout moments. I think there's a whole sort of collection of stuff there that I've been extremely proud of. But equally, we've still got a lot of work to do to get where we want to go.
Well, it will be typical Mill to follow up that performance and beat Ipswich. So let's hope that we do that. Obviously, one of the reasons for performances like first half on Saturday is we've got tons of well-documented injuries, and that comes with challenges not just for the players that are injured, but for the players that, as you alluded to earlier, have to carry more load because they're having to play games, you're having to manage minutes, and all that kind of stuff. Other than just bad luck, what else do you put that down to? And I guess the second part of that question would be, how are you looking forward to working with Mr. North East that's just come into the football club?
Yeah, I think Jonathan's been in, and I think as far as I'm concerned, I think that, what does it put it down to? What I will say is, I think that our high intensity running stats have increased significantly since I've came here. But I think that's what bridges the gap between us and try to make that leap into the top six, if you like. So I don't want to take that away from us. And the fact that I think that we've won games like Southampton, like Leicester, like West Brom, where our running stats have been really high, we've been intense, we've got across the pitch, we've been really aggressive, and I don't want that to change. I think the robustness element, I think, is important for us as a team. I think as well, obviously, in terms of lads that have been injured and maybe missed pre-seasons, I think a lot of the lads that have missed minutes this year have missed part of the pre-season, and that's been a bit of an issue. And I think as well, obviously, lads coming in and finding out about the league, the likes of Ballo, the likes of Derek, I think naturally there's a process there. And Derek has had far much more exposure than what was anticipated at the start due to the volume injuries and other positions. But I think that Jonathan North East, everybody internally, we're doing our utmost to try and make sure that we get to the bottom of what that looks like, what we can do to try and sort of tinker it and sort of try and ease the situation. We've already tailored off training. We've already sort of stopped transitional work and training more so than what we did before. So there's certainly measures and steps being put in place, and hopefully John will have a bigger view on that in terms of what that looks like over the coming weeks.
Amazing. Thanks, Alex. One last question before I hand over to Colin. Obviously, January transfer window just around the corner. In the interview that Steve Gallen gave, he talked a bit about movement potentially coming in and going out, and he kind of alluded to the need, if you like, to address and help the first team squad with some quite quick incomings. Are you able to shed any light in terms of where your priority areas are for the January transfer window?
I think that's a difficult question. I wouldn't go as far as priorities. What I will say is we discuss every position. So it's like anything else. There's easy to say, we need one of these, but if the one that becomes available we don't feel is going to be of the standard required, you wouldn't add that number just for the sake of adding it because it appeases everyone. Do you know what I mean? So it really depends on the relevant quality available, what we can get in, what we feel is good value. Now, whether that's a short-term loan or whether that's a long-term signing will be determined by who we can get and how much it's going to cost and whether we feel it's going to benefit us in the long run. What we don't want to do is we don't want to jeopardise the building of the squad for just a short-term fix just to appease people because we've got another number in the building. In my opinion, you're just playing to the masses then when that happens, and we haven't done that since I've been here. The recruitment team is really diligent. They know what they're looking for. This has been in process since the last window shut, so this has not happened in the last week or so. This has been a process that we've got a list of players in every single position that you can imagine. What we've got to decipher now is who's available, how much for, can they help us, and will they be beneficial for the club longer term? And if the answers to that's yes, then Jimmy and the club will do their utmost to try and see if we can get those deals done. And if the answer's no, we'll move on to the next target. So I hope that answers the question. But as far as positions go, I don't want to be too specific because, like, for instance, we may well have 3 or 4 midfield players available by mid-Jan. And then at that point, if we add another one, we don't want just to stockpile players when they're not going to be needed or necessary at that point.
Yeah, no, totally appreciate that. Thanks a lot, Alex. Much appreciated.
Cheers.
I'll hand over to Colin now.
A message from McAfee.
I'd say howdy, but I'm not a real cowboy.
And I'm not a real alien.
We're deep fakes, and because of fakes like us,
it's hard to tell what's real.
Unless you have McAfee. McAfee's scam detector automatically identifies text and email scams.
And even deep fakes.
And it works everywhere, even out on the range.
Yeehaw! But you're not even a real cowboy.
If they're faking it, they're not making it past us. Get award-winning scam detection today. McAfee.com/keepitreal.
Thanks. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Nice to meet you, Alex. My questions, obviously, for us, centre around more through injuries and training, really. Some of the stuff you cover, but so it overlaps a little bit, but I'll still go through it because it's got a slight different end. So the main question relates to injuries. As an example, we could see at the beginning of the season, the cover for central midfield, up to 9 players, I think there was, well covered. Then injuries, Denor, Mitchell, Sacco, Smallbone, Longo, Lamptey, Massey, Kunda, all these players, only Mitchell just returning. So is that just bad luck? Or is there something else going on? I mean, I'm sure you review things. I just wondered about level intensity of training. Is it too intense? Not too intense, but is there something to be looked at there? Obviously, modern day football, more highly tuned athletes, bigger squads across all clubs. Is training more intense than before? And is this having an impact on the injuries across all clubs, really?
Well, to answer your question, the intensity of any session you put on is what the players put into it, if that makes any sense, because it's not what you do, it's how you do it, isn't it? You know, so I could put any session on, but if the lads go through the motions in it, they're not going to get up to the high speeds or the intensity that is going to get them injured or whatever. Our lads are all in all the time. That's the biggest thing with them. They put everything into every session, they put everything into every game. And yeah, we like I said earlier, we've started to taper the sessions in general. But like even at times, like we need to stop like match day -1s, whereas players normally just do what they need to do to get themselves through it, knowing they're preparing for a game the next day. Our lads are still sort of pedal to the metal, if you like. So there are certain elements there. What I will say, however, is if you look at the injuries that we've picked up, Alfie Massey wasn't even here when he did it. Do you know what I mean? So we put that one in the same bracket. Raf was doing foam rolling on his living room floor, I think, and sort of felt a bit in his knee. Now, the likelihood is he might have done it beforehand, but he can't even remember the mechanism of the injury that he picked up when it happened. If you look at Luke Cundle, he's popped his shoulder out. If you look at Derek Sacco, it's a cruciate coming for a contact injury. If you look at Massimo Longo, he's planted his foot and he's twisted his knee the wrong way. So when you look at the injuries and you actually take them individually, if it was continually a hamstring, continually a quad, continually a knee, then at least for there we can try and put a little bit of context to the injuries and try to come up with a reason as to why it's happening and what we can do to affect it. When the injuries are so widespread, I don't think it's as simple to just put it down to luck, so I'm not suggesting that. I think we do need to go into it, which we have done, but I also think it's too simplistic to go, we're training too hard, or we're doing this too much, or we're doing that too much. I think you need to try and take each one of them in individual merit and try and decipher it and break it down and try and learn the lesson of whether he done too much or he hasn't done enough, or because people automatically go, he's doing too much. Equally, you can do too little. And then when you're trying to work your way back, your body's not sort of robust enough and it's not ready enough to go through the load that's required to operate at this level. So we need to hit a real sweet spot. And like I said earlier, some of the lads that have picked these niggles and injuries up were lads that missed the pre-season for us and didn't do our pre-season. And to put a bit of context as well, the likes of Derek in particular, Derek doesn't know what the championship is. So that poor lad get flung in at the deep end and had to play game after game after game because we didn't have anybody else. And then more importantly, he actually kept Billy Mitchell out of the team at Oxford away because he performed so well. And that's what this club's all about, isn't it? You know, we've got younger players. If they deserve opportunity and they deserve to play, they play ahead of even some more established players if that's on merit.
Yeah. Thank you. Next question, you mentioned all in, which is something really related to a question I had here. If I think back to recent years, it seems to be there's been glimpses of seeing that all in the club. And I mean, that's elucidated by the Southampton and Bristol City games. We're focused more on the Southampton one. But where everyone has run down the line, including yourself, and for Kramer's winner, I mean, I even see Dean Norton and the Doc amongst them there. There was all sort of getting involved. So that all in, which the fans love to see, is a bit of the club's DNA, or we like to think it's just ours. It's probably every other club in the world, but we like to think it's just ours. And we like to see that emotion. So what are you doing to contribute to that? Because that's the difference I've seen in around the club in every aspect. Even going up to when looking at the like Mark Fairbrother and the finance team, I see there's just a change in the working together element. Which is there something you're doing different that you've learned and you've brought to this club?
It's hard for me to comment on that because I don't know what it looked like beforehand. Do you know what I mean? So, and obviously Neil before me, obviously Neil's had these 2 stints here and has done fantastically well for this club as a player and as a manager and a coach. And realistically, without him the last time round, this club could have been in League One. So their efforts and what they managed to do for this club was great. All I've tried to do is build on that, really, you know, and try to accentuate our strengths. I think what we have done, and I don't know if this changes anything, but we've obviously adopted a different strategy, which is Jimmy's strategy, which is obviously try to bring in younger players, try to give younger players more of an opportunity and a chance to play. And then my job is to develop the younger players, develop the style, and try to win games. As I remind Jimmy on a regular basis, that's the holy grail of management. If you can bring in younger players, help them and win at the same time, you're doing all right. But as far as we're concerned at the moment, we've done a pretty good job in that. And I think what happens is when it's your first touch of something or your first sort of team you're in, that you feel part of the team, you create a real bond with that team, you know. And I think because our lads are so young, they're all friends off the pitch. They're all of a very similar age. They're all of a very similar profile. They're all of a very similar stage in their career. And they're all pushing to try and push each other as well as themselves to try and achieve what they can achieve in their career. And I think that brings a lot of camaraderie together, you know. And I think what I have done since I came here is try to sustain and maintain the DNA of Millwall, i.e. having guys like Livers and some of the backroom staff. Like no backroom staff have left apart from their own volition. There's not anybody that I've sort of decided we need to fucking change or anything like that. So all the guys who have been here are still here. And I think the DNA of the club, I think, runs through the club in that sense. And all I've tried to do is try and harness that and bring it together.
Yeah, I think that's, I mean, I'm seeing that in my own eyes after 48 years Millwall fan. I can remember many cases where it wasn't. Alex, it's a bit of a probing question in terms of your knowledge, but if you could have one Millwall all-time great in your lineup today, who would it be and why?
Ooh, that's a good question. I would probably go... Goals wins you games, don't they? I would go with a goal-scoring midfield player, Tim Cahill. That's who I'd probably go with. I think somebody that breaks the box, hits the box, scores you a goal, great legs, great athleticism, good in the air, competitor. Yeah.
He's a one-off. He's a one-off, isn't he?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for your time.
Obviously, with the way that the Premiership now, with spending ridiculous amounts of money on players, it's starting to look as if it's harming the rest of the leagues now with being able to find decent quality players for a reasonable price, which is then obviously you're sort of buying players with past history, injuries or coming back from stuff, or it's forcing you out into a wider European market to pick up players. And then obviously you're getting issues when they're coming into this league. I mean, do you see that is a major problem for you as a manager and as a team, or do you think that it's just one of those things that, you know, it's the same as everything, football moves forward? But I do think that potentially you're not a player what you might have been able to get for say 5 million, the Premiership would probably come in for 20-25 million, which then, unless you've got parachute, just prices Championship teams well out of it.
Yeah, I think it's harder and harder to find unknown talent, shall we say. You know, I think everybody's scouting network is so vast now, particularly Premier League teams, that everybody will be aware of everybody, if you like. And the art of scouting, from my perspective, particularly if we're not going for ready-made, because ready-made's easy. You know, you could have a poll for fans and they could tell you who to go and get ready-made. The art of scouting is finding someone who has yet to hit their potential and yet to hit their peak, and we pick them up. Somebody like a Tristan Kramer, for instance, is a great example. We pick them up. Although people were aware of them, they haven't really hit that level where everybody knows that they could potentially get to. And then we've got to try and facilitate and put them in an environment where you can get the best out of them. And I think that's where we try and pride ourselves on as a recruitment team to go and try and unearth a Derek, a Tristan Kramer, a Femi Aziz, and Josh Coburn, a Mihailo Ivanovic, guys like that, a Zach Sturge. You know, Zach Sturge was on loan to Peterborough. Do you know what I mean? So it's not as if nobody knew about him. What we've got to do is we've got to try and see a potential there. And if you look at Zach's profile, 6'2", extremely mobile, left-footed, can head it, can run, can cross it, can do everything that's required. An easier one is probably an Alfie Doughty. Alfie, everybody knows him across the league. I mean, he's not a surprise to anybody. Everybody knows what you're getting when you bring Alfie in with his qualities, his left foot. So the job for us is finding a balance. You know, we've brought guys like Massimo Longo in to give us a bit of experience in that central area. And while he was fit and available, done a great job. And then we've also went and unearthed guys like Derek, who nobody had even heard of. So it's making sure we get that balance, because although we want to develop young players, you need good quality experienced pros around them. And unfortunately, certainly domestically, that comes at a premium in terms of cost. So there is definitely better value on the foreign market. It's just about getting the right ones.
No worries, thanks. Nick?
My Millwall player from the past I would love to have seen in your team, Alex, would have been Alex Ray back in the day. But anyway, he was a great player. One last question from me then. I mean, you've brought teams to the Den as the away manager, so to speak. So you would be well aware as the incoming Millwall manager what it's like down there. I mean, it probably comes a little bit from our conversation about refereeing and the, what should we call it, the tendency for decisions. I mean, how did you prep your teams as the away manager coming to the Den? What were you telling your players to get ready for? How did you send them out?
Yeah, I think quieting the crowd. I think that's the first thing. I think you want to go down there and take that away from them. I think if you do that, then it certainly makes it a more level playing field. I think even more importantly, if you can turn the crowd against them, I think that's beneficial. That's even better. And I think obviously in terms of physicality, if you can compete with that and you can sort of show moments of quality and make sure you try and sort of play around and through them and even over them at times if you need to, then you can sort of put the game in your favour, you know. And I think that they were always bits that we spoke about, and I'm sure people still speak about the same. I think the thing that amazes me is we're one of the least sort of I don't see us as a physical team in terms of banging the ball up and running about and smashing people. What I do think we do, I think we tackle and we compete as you would expect, but I think we're certainly underestimated in terms of how we can and how we have played in certain elements of the season so far this season. And I think when everybody's fit, I think we've played some really good football. What I will say, opposing managers have been extremely positive in their reaction in terms of how we've played once we've played them. But I think it's just an easy sort of blanket, isn't it? And the fact, it's Millwall, they're direct, they're big, they're just going to put the ball forward. I think we're far from that nowadays. But equally, we still want to keep that sort of element of being tough and hard to play against.
I agree entirely. Great stuff. Thank you, Alex. Thanks for doing this today.
Thank you. It, that's all.
Yeah, thanks. Just one final question from me. So, Alex, you've obviously been promoted out of this league with Norwich, and you came incredibly close many times with Preston. And you've been, public in terms of just how close you thought that was, and maybe a couple of the little missing ingredients in order to get there. Without being really specific, because I don't want to necessarily ask you to go down that road, but how close do you think this group is, both on and off the field, because there's so many components you talked to there about the camaraderie. How close do you think we genuinely are to being a contender that can genuinely be promoted into the Premier League?
I think if we can get our squad back and we can keep the majority consistently fit, and I say the majority because you're never going to have everybody fit all the time. Do you know what I mean? So I think we all understand that. But I think if we can keep everybody fit, and what I do believe in the Championship, because I've sampled it first hand, and I even thought we had it at the end of last year, I think momentum's a big factor. So if you can get a little bit of momentum, you can pick up a couple of wins. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you go into every game and play brilliantly, but you find a way to win the game. And I had this discussion with the lads today. I don't think you end up in the top six because of games against Ipswich and Leicester and Coventry, and because I think the games as a player are easy to play in. I think the games that you end up in the top six in is Derby away, Blackburn away, Preston at home, they type of games, and they're the games for us at the moment that we really need to double down on and try and make sure we maximise what we're capable of doing in those games. And I think there's still more to come from us in that respect, and that's what I was referring to earlier when you were saying about what we've still got to work on and different bits like that. I think they're the games now that that we need to really try and get as many points as we can in. And if we can do that, I think we give ourselves a really good platform to then sort of spring forward. So to answer your question, if we can get everybody back, we can keep most of them fit and we can get a bit of consistency in terms of lineup. And more importantly, it's like anything else. Like, I fluctuate how we play from time to time, but the reason I do it is you can't ask somebody to do something that somebody else is better at, if that makes any sense. So I'll give you an example with that. Femi Aziz is a natural right winger that can take it and shift the ball outside people and run past them. There's no point me asking somebody who's not that type of player to go out there and do that. Do you know what I mean? So we end up sort of having to tinker a little bit with how we build and how we play, because when we haven't got that available to us, it then makes us a little bit different as a team. And sometimes that's to our detriment, because that ingredients is exactly what's required for that match. So there's been a couple of occasions where I know going into the game that we're sort of maybe light in a certain area in terms of what's required for the game. The frustrating thing is we have got it within the squad. So it's not as if it's not available to us, it's just not available for that match. So, but yeah, a bit of momentum, keep more consistency in terms of people fit. Hopefully we won't be too far away.
It's really interesting, that point there about the Femi piece, because you're right, like Ballo, asking Ballo to do a job on the left is completely different to what you'd expect him to be able to do on the right, and conversely with Ido, because he's been switching wings. So yeah, it's a really interesting point. Thanks for sharing, Alex.
Cheers.
Colin, over to you.
Yeah, sorry, Chris, you pretty much spread my last backup question word for word about being serious contenders and what does it take to get that sort of conviction and real prospect. So that was really my backup question. But off the top of my head, and it's not a challenge or any sort of anything else, it's just literally, Millwall have always had, like, or been known to having Morrisons and Harris and Casper and O'Shem, the two up front. I just wonder, with Coburn, obviously that hasn't changed things, but is that something that you consider, or is it something that you don't prefer? Or what's your view on that? Is it what should we say, a reflective judgment rather than, if a game's gone away a certain way, maybe change it to a different way? Or do you have an opinion around that type of lineup?
What I always try and do is I try and walk backwards in the fact that I want to try and get the best players in the team. So whoever the best players are, whoever I feel is the most effective players for that moment in time, well, I'll give you a bit of contrast. So we played at Norwich with two up front at the start of the season when Josh Coburn and Mihailo were available, and I thought we were excellent. I thought we were well worth the win. But equally, we played two up top against, was it Wrexham? And we lost the game and we were disappointed in that sense. So a two up top works in certain aspects, particularly if you don't lose the middle of the pitch. And what we tend to do when we play that way is we roll in for the left and we hold it off the right, or vice versa, to make sure that extra man we can supplement for somewhere else. I think if we get everybody fit, I would definitely, whether it's starting that way or certainly go to it if we needed to, I would be much more inclined to play a two up front on certain occasions. I think the difficulty I've got at the moment is, one, Josh Coburn would be the target in that sense, and Mihailo would walk round his feet. But also, two, if you're going to do that and take a number away from the middle of the pitch, you need to make sure you're strongest in that area. And at the moment, certainly for the last, God knows how long, we've certainly not been at our strongest in the middle space. So they two things would have to combine for us to allow us to play that way, because I think if we do it without that, I'm not sure it's going to work in our benefit and it's not going to work in our favour. So if that became the case and we had all that available, and that's what I was sort of referring to when I was speaking to Chris as well, that if we had everybody available, we could be much more fluent in terms of shape to shape, even within game if we needed to be.
Great, and just to finish on that, not another question, but Ivanovic and Coburn, I weren't sure if it sounds like lawyers or a magical partnership, but hopefully we'll see in the future.
Yeah, well, let's hope. If we can get both fit, we'll certainly get a better chance to score more goals.
Thanks for your time, Alex.
That was a really interesting interview, dear listeners. I think that Alex Neil comes over very, very well in conversation. We've said it before. His post-match interviews are always really honestly done. It was on Saturday after that disappointing result up there at Blackburn. And he's, he's man enough to come forward and say when things aren't to his satisfaction. I think that's to be applauded. So I hope you've enjoyed this impromptu edition, Monday with Merv edition of Achtung Millwall. We shall be back probably after Christmas. But in the meantime, dear listeners, I just want to send my own personal best wishes to you, to your family and your friends and everyone associated with yourselves for Christmas. Have a really good one. Here's hoping, touching wood, gypsies, rabbits' feet, lucky heather, that on Boxing Day we can turn around this current depressing form and pick up 3 points at home to Ipswich Town. Let's all get down the Den and do our best to get behind the Chaps for 3 points. But until the next edition of Achtung Millwall, dear listeners, from me, Nick Hart, have a very happy Christmas and see you again after Boxing Day. Arrivederci Millwall. Bye for now.
Achtung, Millwall.
Who do you want to watch?